Welcome back, E7 fam, to another episode of First Thoughts and Initial Impressions, the show where I correctly predict half of the time if a character is meta defining or I completely miss the mark. My name is Pat, I'll be your host for this episode, and today we are basically just going to be covering the patch notes that were put out this morning, which is essentially just 3 new exclusive equipments, as well as talking about Zahhak as well. There are other things that were announced like Advent, but they're not super important right now. You'll see them in like another 2 to 3 weeks. For the most part, I'm only focusing on the exclusive equipments as well as the new characters, Zahhak, and whether or not I think they are worth pulling and whether or not I think they are worth playing. Before moving on to the exclusive equipments, real quickly though, if you missed it in the Mercedes video, I did open up a Discord server, which I'll link down in this video's description. You can join and ask me any kind of questions you want, especially if they are related to characters that I have not already put out how to play videos on. Speaking of characters I have released how to play videos on, we have 3 new exclusive equipments. 2 of them, Valencia and Illinab, are ones I've already done how to play videos on. So if you want to know how to play them, those videos still should be relevant. Those characters have fallen on some hard times, but if you want to try to make them work with the new exclusive equipments, the base is still there and still definitely applicable. So, take that as you will. The third character we got an exclusive equipment for is Free Spirit Tierra, which is a character I think nobody had on their bingo card. That is like the last character in the entire roster I would have expected to get an exclusive equipment. So let's just quickly break these down. First off, Valencia, the price of insolence, has critical hit chance between 6 and 12%. This is exactly what the character needed in terms of stats. The hardest part about the character is getting critical hit chance on them because they need a lot of health to be effective. They need decent speed, they need decent bulk, and you need them on immunity set so that way they can't just be locked down and have no game impact at the start. So critical hit chance was usually the stat most players sacrifice, so seeing that here is a welcome addition. What's not welcome are pretty much all 3 of these because none of these solve the issue that Valencia has. Valencia right now is outclassed by other bruisers like Rem or Apocalypse Robbie because of the fact that they can basically win you the game by themselves, and they have a little bit more survivability. They basically have really good 1v4 potential, and they're very hard to kill. Valencia might be hard to kill, but doesn't really have 1v4 potential, and when she falls behind, she can't really make a comeback. The first EE makes it so that her Mind's Eye changes from a 50% to 70% proc rate, which will help alleviate the fact that some matches she just sits there like a potato and does nothing. So having 70% will make her feel like she has more game impact early on and in the middle of matches, but it doesn't solve the fact that she's terrible at the late part of the match. So that's rough. The second one makes it so that Trample does 20% more damage, which is nice, but it's not good enough. I think she just needs base multiplier increases in general because Apocalypse Robbie does almost as much damage as her S1 and S2 if you don't land the defense break. So I would rather that this character, since all she's really designed to do is strip things with her S3 and then hit you really hard with S1 and S2, I would rather just get base damage increases on both S1 and S2 rather than waste an EE on it and get extra damage. Doesn't really, again, fix any problems. And then the third one is a 30% effectiveness buff for 2 turns when you use Genesis. I guess it's cool, but nobody was really playing this character as a stripper. You're playing it as a bruiser that could punish DPS that were given buffs. You just want to remove buffs on DPS that get them. So yeah, none of these really solve the issue. I think the first one is the best one and is the one I would probably play if you were looking to pick one up for Valencia. Next is Illinab. Again, has the exact same issue that Valencia had. Very difficult to get that crit hit chance while still maintaining over 20k HP and over 1100 defense. So this is definitely a welcome change. Makes gearing her easier, makes it much easier to get those higher HP totals because crit hit chance is kind of hard to get on a character. So getting 12 for free, in addition to the fact that her imprints give crit chance, is super awesome. It makes gearing her a breeze. If you remember from how to play Illinab, I said the 2 biggest problems with the character is that the S1 feels like it has very little to no game impact, and that the soul burn is essentially irrelevant. Her S1 makes it so that you have a chance to use S2 every time you use it, and her soul burn basically guarantees you just S2. So yeah, again, no game impact. So what I'm really looking for when I'm thinking of ways to help the character, or how can we make the S1 feel not terrible, and how can we change the soul burn. And as you can see from looking at these E's, they did neither of those things. So the first E decreases the skill cooldown of Punish by 1 turn, which is her S2. You can basically use her S2 at will anytime you want. I don't care what the base cooldown of the move is. So this is irrelevant. Repel, which is her S3, she gains a barrier for 2 turns when she uses her S3, and the barrier strength increases proportional to the max health. The only place that Illinab sees any play right now whatsoever is on Guild War offense and Guild War defense. And the most common character you play her with is Fallen Cecilia. So why do I need a barrier with this character? So this is also another completely irrelevant EE. And so that means that the third EE by default is the winner, which is when you use the S3, you get 50% combat readiness, so you could take advantage of the buffs that Repel gives right away. So yeah, again, super disappointed in these EEs. They don't really address or fix anything. And then finally, we talk about Free Spirit Tieria, which is a character I know next to nothing about other than the fact that she's a really good farmer and that she's designed for new players to help you get through the first 2 episodes of the game really, really quickly. So I'm going to assume that that is basically the primary focus, or what they're trying to do with most of these EEs. I think she's probably a decent hunt character as well. I think you could probably use her for like Asthmatic 13. So the first one, Half Slash, I'm assuming that's her S1. It decreases the skill cooldown of Energy Wave, which is the only move I know on her, which is the S2, by 1 turn when she attacks a Dark Elemental hero. So, I mean, this doesn't seem super bad. Like, this might be good for like some kind of PvE content where you're fighting a dark boss, because it's, you know, you're just going to be able to get Energy Wave up really, really quickly, because I think it only refreshes on kill. But this will allow you to basically just spam it. So I guess this one's all right. Dispels 1 buff from the target when using Energy Wave, so it just becomes, her S2 becomes like a massive AoE strip. It's not super bad, not super great, not really in love with it. I think this is more of a PvE character, but that suggests like it's a PvP EE. There might be some applications for, again, I'm not super well versed in this character. And then the last one is the S2 grants immunity to all allies for the caster for 1 turn when using Energy Wave, which I like that one the best because, again, this is an AoE character, and I usually liken her to like Vildred or Arbor Vildred for PvE, where it's just, you're just spamming the AoE to get through it as fast as possible. Vildred's obviously really good in Asthmatic, and I think maybe Tieria might be all right there as well. And so seeing this, where you get the immunity on all allies, can kind of like mitigate those like bleeds and other things that Asthmatic has. So for a new player, maybe this might be an okay pickup, I think, for that. Again, not super real sure about this EE. Time will tell if it's good or not. Again, this is kind of like the out of left field pick. I really was not expecting Free Spirit Tieria to get an EE. So now let's move on to talking about Zahhak. So I'll play his sick trailer now for you all.
It's only natural for an inferior being to die. I'll remove you like you never even existed.
Keep that voice line in mind, by the way.
Everything has a designated order, without exception.
Alright, so 2 things. 1, this man is beautiful. Like Square Enix levels of unrealistic beauty. Like this man could be a Final Fantasy character. He's that good looking. And then 2, you guys already know I'm like a super big voice acting nerd. This dude is voiced by Kyle McCarley, which has me stoked. That was like the first thing that jumped out at me when I saw this trailer. I was like, oh crap, we got Kyle McCarley. If you remember from the Ron video, I talked about how Epic 7 was moving up in the world and how we were getting better voice acting talent. Like before we had like good voice actors at the start, but now we're getting like some really, really heavy hitters from the VA industry, or I should say voiceover industry. So Kyle McCarley, if you do not know this man's body of work, is really good. You can hear him as Mob from Mob Psycho 100. You can hear him as Narancia from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind. And you can hear him as 9S from arguably one of my favorite video games and the best game of 2017. Don't you dare say it's Breath of the Wild, Nier Automata. So yeah, this is very excited that he is in the game. And I'll probably be pulling for him just for that reason, amongst other reasons that we'll talk about in this video. So, yeah. He is an Earth Warrior of the Sagittarius Zodiac symbol. So if you guys don't know the characters that have this zodiac sign. It is Blue Chloe and Soul Bad Guy. So this is a really uncommon stat line, and one that pretty much never makes it into PvP. So yeah, keep that in mind. So attack is 1177, which is pretty much about standard for a damage dealer. Like, I'm usually looking for this number or better for a damage dealer. And you gotta be at least in the high 11s to do some serious damage, unless you have health scaling. When we look at the health, 5,542, pretty terrible for a warrior. 119 speed for a warrior, best in class. Literally the fastest speed for a warrior is 119. 553 defense is okay. It's kind of low, honestly, for a warrior. It's okay for other classes, but for a warrior, this is kind of lacking. We're usually looking at the low 600s, so that's kind of a bummer. Critical hit chance is 27%, which is amazing. And it's going to be even more amazing when we talk about the character's kit, because this character, spoiler alert, has a base of 77 crit hit chance, which is really, really good. It makes gearing this character really, really easy for a lot of you watching this video. 150% critical hit damage, 5% dual attack chance, no effectiveness or effectiveness. Imprint release is defense percentage, which is puzzling. I don't really feel like that's one that's super great unless you're playing like Designer Lilibet or like Fighter Maya. Like, yeah, I don't know who needs defense percentage for your imprint release. Concentration is attack, which is always welcome on a damage dealer. And yes, this man is a damage dealer. And the character I'm going to be comparing him to most often throughout this entire analysis is Blue Kisei. And you'll see why when we talk about the skills in a second. So, his first ability, S1, Vulnerability Exposed, attacks the enemy with a longsword and increases critical hit chance by 50% when attacking. Damage dealt increases if the target is buffed. So now you see why I just mentioned Blue Kisei. This is a very fast hero, probably somebody who's going to be at least 265 because he has such a high base speed, and he has an S1 that deals more damage as long as the target is buffed. We don't know the base multipliers, but I'm going to assume it's a 1.1 because that seems to be the trend. Every character nowadays just feels like they have a 1.1 single target S1. And then we have to see how much that damage dealt increases when target is buffed, because if it's the 70% that Kisei has, oh man, this character's real good already just based off of that, because he's real fast and he can rip through tanks like they're butter. So that's really, really good. And you'll notice his soul burn is 10 souls to increase the damage on the S1. That is again very reminiscent of Blue Kisei. So we have fast character with a very similar S1 to Blue Kisei, and he has a base of 77 crit chance on the S1. So he's already pretty easy to gear. So off to a pretty good start with Vulnerability Exposed. Second ability, Elaborate Plan, is I think where we stumble a bit. Okay, it's actually I think where we stumble a lot, because I think this move is really not good. Cooldown is 4 turns. It dispels 2 debuffs from an ally as well as Zahhak before granting both of them a barrier for 2 turns. It then increases the combat readiness of Zahhak by 50%, and the barrier strength increases proportional to the target's max health. Keep in mind, this is target, not Zahhak. So if you target a tank and remove the buffs from them, you'll get a pretty fat barrier, at least assuming the barrier multipliers are actually pretty good. The video is pretty deceptive. It makes it look like the barrier is pretty terrible. We, again, have to see what the multipliers are. But if it's a pretty chunky barrier, then it might be okay. But this, to me, does not inspire confidence, because I feel like it's a long cooldown for a non-attack skill. And then on top of that, it doesn't really feel like it synergizes at all with his game plan. I really think you want to just be like S3 off the rip with this character. And then your follow-up turns are like S1s and soul burns. Elaborate Plan doesn't really feel like it fits in super well with his game plan. It doesn't feel like cohesive. It just doesn't. I don't really see myself using Elaborate Plan on like the first or like second turn of a game, most likely. I think like they wanted him to have some support capabilities, but like this is a cleanse on a character with no ER and no way to guarantee that he doesn't just like completely get destroyed by debuffs. So like its best use is like your opponent goes S3 with Angel of Light Angelic at the start of a fight. Oh look, my Zahhak 15% resisted. Maybe I can finally use my S2 now. Isn't that awesome? So now let's talk about the S3 skill, which is Execute. It has a 4 to 5 turn cooldown depending on Malagora. You attack the enemy, inflicting injuries before granting the caster invincibility for 1 turn. Off to a good start. As you know, in most of my videos, I always say you need some form of survivability for a character to be viable in PvP. So here we are. Invincibility is going to be his survivability skill. And again, I feel like it really drives that point home that this character is very similar to Blue Kisei, because the only way for your character to meaningfully survive, I should say, excuse me, is to actually go first to be able to get up this move or like the barrier on his S2 if you need that. So he's got to be fast. Increases hit chance and critical hit chance by 50% when attacking. So keep in mind, this is hit chance. So this means it can hit characters that have dodge. So that right there should just tell you that the main reason probably to play the character is to counter a character like Violet or to counter a character like Remnant Violet. So yeah, that's the main reason. And again, we got this nice 50% critical hit chance. So he has 77% base crit chance. So gearing this character, again, going to be a breeze. Injuries is kind of still a meme, but we've noticed that in the past a couple of months that we have characters like Apocalypse Robbie and Bellion that are already really good characters in their own right. They can make injury work simply because the character is already solid by itself. So I do think that the S1 was already really good. And I do think that this move having a purpose, execute, for being not only a survivability skill, but also a hard counter to some of the most relevant cancerous meta units that we have, is really, really helpful. So having 35% injuries on top of that is a bonus. And keep in mind, 35 is huge. Normally it's 10%. So like this plus Apocalypse Robbie is like, man, I hit you so hard and now you've lost like half your max health. So that is really good, I think. I think this move, my biggest complaint with it is actually the name, because the name of the move is execute, and this move is not an execute. If you remember, I was saying, remember that voice line from the trailer that we played? The like, I'll make sure you never existed, or you'll be like you'll never existed, or whatever. That's on a move called execute. This move does not execute, because a proper execute would be like Fight or Maya, where it just kills you outright if you're low on health. And it doesn't have extinction on it. So, wow, what was the point of naming just naming this move execute? I feel like this is one of those things where like they probably had it as an execution move in like the back room when they were designing it, and then they were like, crap, we need an answer to Violet. It gives hit chance now or something like that. Yeah, it just feels super, super weird. Overall though, I do think the character is niche playable. I don't think he's going to be like everywhere. You're not going to see him every match. I think he very much occupies the exact same spot that Kisei does, which is here's a speed contest unit that completely hoses one of the units on your team. And if you have to either ban this character, or they're going to go first and they are completely just going to nuke a character. And when they cycle back around, they're just going to nuke another character again. So yeah, that's where I feel about Zahhak. I think he is a playable unit. Don't think he is some kind of meta defining hero. I think he is a counter pick. And I do think for most people watching this video, especially if you have trouble with Violet and Remnant Violet and other dodge units, then yes, you should probably pull for this character and build them. So now let's talk about the artifact, which is the last thing we'll talk about before we wrap up this video. It is Pure White Trust. Don't be like me and read it as Pure White Trash the first time. I really thought that's what it was. And then I was like, oh man, I really should wait till the cobwebs are out of my eyes in the morning. But yeah, Pure White Trust. So originally, not super impressed with the artifact. When you use a non-attack skill, it increases the speed of the caster for 2 turns and gives you a critical hit damage bonus on your next attack up to 30% based on the amount of artifact copies you have. So 15 to 30% extra crit damage on your next attack after using a non-attack skill. So obviously they want you to use that horrible S2 to get the speed buff, so you can cycle back around and then use the S3 or the S1 or whatever have you at increased critical hit damage. Cool. Here's the thing. I don't really want to use the S2. I just want to go in. I want to use the S3. I want to blow up a Violet. And then if I survive, long enough for a second turn, I just want to soul burn my S1 and then just kill another guy. So the best artifacts to do that are a Portrait of Saviors and a Symbol of Unity. Those are the 2 that I think are the best on Zahhak. I think you just go, as I said kind of earlier, I'm thinking Speed Pen, 3600 or more attack, 280 or more crit damage, 265 speed or better on one of those 2 damage artifacts. Hell, I would even take Exorcist Tonfa if I don't have one of those other 2 available, and just completely just nuke somebody like Kisei does. That's my thought. I don't think you need this for Zahhak. That said, if you do pick up one of these, it does have a purpose, because a guildmate of mine did point out to me this is really, really good on a character like Sermia, because this is like a different, not necessarily better, he considered it a strictly better, but it is a different version of Border Coin. So Border Coin, obviously you're not going to replace Infernal Kawazu's Border Coin with this, because Border Coin, when you use a non-attack skill, gives you a 10% speed bonus plus an attack bonus. So his burns obviously scale off attack, he doesn't care about crit damage. However, Sermia, normally in shorter fights, will never stack up the full Border Coin, so being able to get the 30% speed boost from the speed buff right off the rip is really awesome. So right now, Sermia is probably the best damage dealer in the game for Pain Pursuer Moroi, which is the current expedition that is up. So I do think that if you don't have a maxed Border Coin, Pure White Trust is a very good option to slot into her to increase the performance of your expedition team if you're already playing her. So yes, the artifact is not useless. It's just very, very niche. Very, very niche. So I do think it is worth having a couple of copies. Obviously, I would be thrilled to pick up like 3 or 4 of these, while trying to roll for a copy of Zahhak. I don't think I'm going to be that lucky and get like 3 or 4 copies of the artifact. But yeah, would be very excited to have a max copy of this and test it out on Sermia, because I love that character so much. So that's going to be it for my analysis of everything. Like, yes, there's going to be a side story, and we are going to be getting other limited characters like Fairy Tale Tenebria, and I'll probably be doing a how to play on her in the future as well. So you can look forward to that. Obviously, I'll probably do a guide for Advent like I did with the last one as well. So you can look forward to that when that comes out as well. It is going to be Thanksgiving tomorrow here in America. So for everyone who was watching this, all of my American viewers out there, I wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time with your friends and family. I hope it is awesome. I probably will not be uploading any more content for the rest of the week due to the fact that it is going to be a long holiday weekend. So until then, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy your holiday, and enjoy your weekend. I will see you all in the next video. Have a good one now. Bye bye.